Welcome to Season 2 of How to Not Kill Your Community, a podcast of the Delaware Community Foundation. Join us in exploring how the choices we make impact the well-being of our families and neighbors. This season, we'll bring together experts in volunteering, entrepreneurship, public transportation, and even joy to tackle one essential question: how do we not kill our community? Welcome back to Season 2 of How to Not Kill Your Community. Today we're going to be talking about entrepreneurship, and our guest today is Patricia Rivera. Welcome, Patricia.
Thank you so much, Sue.
I will tell people who you are if they don't know, and then we'll get into the guts of this thing. So Patricia is the founder of Hook PR and Marketing, where she leads a team of multicultural communicators, making campaigns that honor the depth and diversity of people and support organizations focused on the social good. You began your career as a print journalist with the New York Times, the News Journal, and the Dallas Morning News. There's a whole list of awards you've received, but I'll just mention most recently named as a member of the Delaware Business Times 222 Leaders in the State. Congratulations, Patricia. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much, Sue. And likewise.
So, Patricia, let's get to it. So, we're in a state with lots of big businesses, and they're doing pretty well, and they're most of the jobs there. Is it really necessary in a state like this for the state and others to be paying attention to helping new entrepreneurs?
Stu, I would say absolutely. I am a big believer that entrepreneurship is an economic equalizer, and we see that in the state of Delaware. In Delaware, we have about 98.7% of businesses are owned by small businesses, and they create 214,000 jobs. That's 50%, more than 50% of the workforce. So this is not a sidebar in the Delaware story, right, or in the Delaware narrative about economic development and economic prosperity. And what we see is not only are entrepreneurs adding to the economy there, but they're also living really purposeful lives, right? Because we have people who are bringing their gifts to the world in ways that not only improve other lives, but also improve society as well. So I'm going to say we should be spending more time focusing on talking about entrepreneurship.
And so what is it we need to do to help these new, young, maybe not all young, but new entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are two key issues that Delaware needs right now: access to capital, right? And it's always an issue for underrepresented communities of all types, number one. Number two is training that's truly customized, because the need of a veteran entering a small business ship is very different from, let's say, a young mother, right? So we need to make sure that their needs, that they're coming into the field sort of on equal footing with the resources and the information that they need to be able to really succeed.
So you've been Hook PR, and this is fun to talk about entrepreneurship, and I know you talk about it a lot, but typically when I think of you, I think, oh, doing great communications and marketing, working with people around bilingual and et cetera. But you started your company 20 years ago, I think, something
Correct.
along those lines.
19 years ago.
19 years ago. And so what was it, what gap were you trying to fill in the market, and what were you trying to accomplish for yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So at that point, I was a business writer for the Dallas Morning News, and I saw three gaps, I would say. First, I saw that businesses were doing really extraordinary things, businesses of all sizes. But yet when you went to their websites or reviewed their marketing material, they weren't talking about their why. They weren't telling the story of what was really driving them, right? In Dallas, the second point is, in Dallas at that point, is a very diverse community with a large Latino population. Online, corporations were not speaking in Spanish, right? Or if they were doing so, they weren't doing it professionally and in a culturally thoughtful way. And then the third gap I saw is that minorities, minority communities, or really diverse communities, were not being represented in the marketing. And if they were, it was one or two, right? It was what we always saw, very stereotypical. So at some point I was like thinking, there is a gap I can fill. And when my daughter was born and I really wanted more independence, right? Because I was traveling through Dallas a little bit at that point and she was young, I was like, you know what? I can help stories. I can use my journalism to help tell more meaningful stories for businesses.
How did that transition feel from a regular paid gig to a, oh my gosh, I have to hustle all the time gig?
Well, I really did have to hustle all the time because I wanted to ensure that I was going to do this full time. So I hired a full-time nanny, right? So,
Wow.
So from the
you
beginning,
had to pay the bill for that.
right? From the beginning, I was like, okay, like we're going to make this happen. So at the beginning, I started with the translations arm, right, and did that for a while I continued to write for different publications. And at that point, I was very fortunate to work with national publications. And then Hook PR came in a little bit later, as I just, as I grew that part of my business as well.
So for small business, we typically think that is a place where a lot of people of color trying to create businesses start out, because the big businesses aren't always as accessible. What are the challenges of being a Latino employee, an African-American person trying to create a business? What are the challenges you see in particular for those communities?
Right. So there is, again, the issue of access, right? There's always going to be the issue of access to capital. I'd like to think that we're doing better, but yet then we come out with, Stanford, which has been studying the Latino community entrepreneurs for many years, 10 years now, came out with a study showing that when Latinos get turned down for capital, less than half are explained why, compared to 87% of why white people who are denied, or white business owners who are denied, right? So there are still ongoing issues with CAC, and that's not just with the Latino community, it's any underrepresented community. And then, so the second is also, particularly I'm going to speak to the Latino community because each community is different, is visibility. More than a sixth of Latinos say that they are more likely to face issues in marketing or feel insecure about marketing because they don't have access to those networks and they don't have access to those relationships, right? So those are two just right off the top, issues that continue to hold back.
So, Patricia, you were also influential in the creation of the La Colectiva initiative in Sussex County, and it's a place where the DCF's Arsht-Cannon Fund helped provide early funding, but to get grantees to collaborate and improve access to programming and services for Latino and immigrant communities in Sussex County. Why was it needed, and how has it accomplished its goals?
Absolutely. So Chris Cannon was really the visionary behind that. And the idea was to bring together or to unite Latino-facing organizations so that they could work more collaboratively. Over the years, she had seen how so many applicants were really asking for the same type or funding for the same type of services. And she wanted to create more collaboration, right? And for me, it was just a real honor to work with her, with someone who was so committed to the Latino community. I really admired her from afar for many, many years. She's going on 20 years of serving this community. And it was a real honor to help her with this organization. And the organization was effective in bringing people together at its, it was pre-COVID. So pre-COVID, it was really having quarterly sessions, a lot of interesting conversations and collaborations. More than 60 organizations across Delaware participated in it. And the organization has continued. It is now part of La Esperanza, which is a nonprofit. It continues to do some resourcing and navigation services through La Esperanza, and also communication to other nonprofits on a monthly basis. There's a newsletter that goes out. And fortunately, other grantors have also been involved. The Matt Haley Trust, in particular, has supported this initiative for just about since the beginning, since it started six years ago.
Really, you mentioned quarterly meetings, and I just want to say it shows it takes time to build trust. Like, these things work. The longer you keep meeting, the more you can do.
Yeah, and we had wonderful meetings. You were a part of them at the beginning, right? There were very large groups. Unfortunately, for the meetings, COVID really, impacted us. But now there's a lot of collaboration with groups, smaller groups that come together. For instance, ESL providers. Instead of now having, 30 programs across Sussex County, they're working collaboratively to determine, okay, how can we not create duplication? And then we also have a resource center so that people can go to one place and figure out, who's teaching where.
That's great. Yeah. And as you look at the situation today, of course, it's a very different environment because of the aggressive stance around immigrants to the community and the fear amongst a lot of people. Is La Colectiva able to help hold together the community? Well, there's a double question here. How's the community holding together? Also, what is that rush to enforce laws or enforce deportations and whatnot affecting the entrepreneurial community?
Right. So first with La Colectiva, Jen Fuqua, who is now running the Arsht-Cannon Foundation, really worked to ensure that La Colectiva was part of La Esperanza. Mm-hmm. So now it is really embedded fully into La Esperanza. And La Esperanza, it's one of its really core missions is to help with immigration mm-hmm. issues. So the organization, and La Colectiva, but particularly La Esperanza, is deeply ingrained in that and helping immigrants from educating organizations that also serve Latinos about mm-hmm. immigration because, for a while it was changing so rapidly and trying to get the word out. So that's the first part. And I think Jen was really, really influential in ensuring that La Colectiva would continue mm-hmm. right within La Esperanza. And the second part, fear is strong and, in the community right now, and it absolutely has affected people in all life, right? In absolutely everything, from going to school to attending your business to spending time with your family, that there is fear, and there will continue to be fear.
Yeah, and I'm going to step back for the listeners and viewers. The La Colectiva is a collaborative effort of a bunch of organizations. La Esperanza is an organization providing service for decades. Correct. And so the La Colectiva is the formal 501c3, right? And the La Colectiva is now part of the programming.
Correct. La Esperanza is the nonprofit, yeah. And this year we're celebrating 30 years.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. At your organization itself, you talk about a team of multicultural communicators. What does multicultural marketing really mean in practice?
Yeah. So multicultural today is, well, let me just say, multicultural at one point was ensuring that, content was being translated mm-hmm. or that campaigns were meeting the needs of diverse communities. And that's a wonderful thing. But there was sort of the assumption that the core brand needed to speak differently to each group, right? Versus now in inclusive marketing, we want to create an experience that really speaks to the greatest number of people. Yeah. And we do that by creating universal themes, but then also at the same time focusing on those cultural nuances, right? That will help people feel seen and mm-hmm. heard, right? It's almost like a cultural wink when you're able to do that. Have a universal thing, but yet enough of a cultural mm-hmm. nuance to connect. So that's how that's evolved. I mean, we still use both terms, but we're really more into inclusive marketing, making sure that we're trying to, from the beginning, from the start of the story, including as many as possible, right? And today, I'll say in 2026, particularly with AI, what I try to do is ensure that we're also talking about dignity first communication, because it is too easy to develop content, and we're starting to see, the rise again of stereotypes and biases, right? That we have to slow down and ask just basic questions. Are we being respectful of the people, right? Are we being accurate and truthful about their stories, right? And are we also developing communication that is accessible to all people? And that's not only literacy, but that's translations, visual accessibility, etc. So multicultural was much more limited. Very important, but it's since evolved and it's continuing to evolve.
You helped lead a series of workshops that were part of our Meet the Moment program, which is to try to help nonprofits figure out how are they going to navigate this new world where everything's different. With reduced funding, with messaging that says you can't say this anymore, you can't say that anymore. How can nonprofits effectively use storytelling and marketing to get through this moment of crisis?
Right. So it's a good opportunity to approach storytelling differently. In the past, we always told stories about communities. Now we need to tell stories with communities. And it's with that
Nice.
co-storytelling that we're really going to be able to establish greater trust, not only with the communities that we're serving, but obviously with the communities that are supporting and funding these organizations as well, because they're going to see greater results. They're going to see the authenticity, right? They're going to see this connection, this true connection that you have with the community. So co-storytelling is very important now. And it's particularly important for organizations that feel like they have to change the narrative framework of what they're doing, because we're also having to do that right now.
And do you find that message resonates with the nonprofits as you're talking to them about this?
Absolutely it does. Absolutely it does.
They get it. They say, oh, smart.
They get it. They want more, and that's why there was interest in
Continuing interest, quite frankly.
Right.
People want more of that. So
Right.
maybe we'll do more.
exactly.
What, as an insider in the entrepreneurial world, what do you think about the overall ecosystem supporting entrepreneurs in this state? What's really going well, and where are some of the biggest weaknesses? And I'm going to guess you're going to say resources.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's going well is Delaware's small size. It's an incredible asset. It allows a small business owner to sit with a mayor, to sit with a nonprofit director, executive director, right, and talk about what we can do to progress communities, to progress businesses. So that's a beautiful thing that is really hard to replicate in other areas. Challenges and opportunities, we mentioned. Capital is always, an issue. Access to capital for just about, everyone, particularly also in rural communities, right? We're seeing that as well. And then training and mentorship. Right, and Delaware's doing a good job. Delaware was able to create La Plaza, right? I worked very closely with Mary DuPont in its early days to find a group that needed resources that really spoke to them. So that's just one example. I was also involved with a SCORE group more than 10 years ago that focused on women entrepreneurs. It was a year-long program. I had to drive up here every month, but it was tremendous in really understanding what our needs was. And it was a moment of pivot for me, but it was a program that specifically focused on women.
So if you are a young entrepreneur today, or perhaps somebody comes to you and said, I want to start a business just like yours, let's say. I want to create a marketing business, and what are you going to tell them about where to start?
I'm going to say, go Simon Sinek, figure out what your why is, right?
Simon Sinek has a video which is about the golden why.
Exactly.
And if you haven't watched it, and we watched it, and I was mentoring a group of young heads of organizations, and I showed it again, and they're like, oh my gosh, it's an amazing video.
Yeah, absolutely. And it clearly spells out why you do it, because he says it, right? He says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it.
Yep.
Right? So that's your why. And then you explain the how, and with the what and the how.
Yeah.
So it's understanding, because, businesses come and go, but when your passion is there, you're going to see it through. And it's not easy, right? We know that 75% of businesses are gone within 10 years.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's not always a failure. Sometimes you do it and you say, you know what, that's right. Of course, I'm going to do something different now.
And we're actually doing that. I wouldn't say that it's failed, but we're seeing a new gap, right? So we've worked very closely with nonprofits for the last 20 years, and now we're really seeing a gap with small businesses, and we want to and we're actually launching an initiative called Hook Strategic, so that it is focused on small businesses and really helping them articulate their why, their stories. But what we're going to do differently is we're going to make it a bilingual team right from the beginning, so we can better serve Latinos, and so we can also create resources, a robust resource center in Spanish that also speaks to entrepreneurs who are doing incredibly well, but they may have less than a 5th grade education, and there's not a lot of information that really speaks to them.
And I'm sure you've met with the people from La Plaza.
As I said, I helped Mary start that, and I taught one of the lessons, and I was actually in the group when we came up with Dale, which is the entrepreneur group, and I saw that. But yet the level of just commitment right? And the level of drive is so huge. And it is because of them that I'm like, you know what? We got to create resources, video resources, easy guides, that really help them move through the process. So that's sort of like, sometimes you have to evolve, and we're incredibly committed to this, but we see this other gap and we're like, okay, coming on 20 years, like we're going to do more, right? And
That's a good thing.
It's
a good thing. We change.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to go back to Simon Sinek for just a minute. It's Sinek. If somebody watching doesn't know about it, look it up. It's great. This question of people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. It's true in a lot of contexts. It's true with politicians. I mean, you think about if you see a politician and you say their why is knocking me dead, I love it. You don't always get them to do exactly what you want, but if you trust them, if you say their why is really a good one, you can really ride with them for a long time.
Same for nonprofits. Right? Beyond a mission. It's like, why are you really doing it?
Well, right. I mean, the old thing, right? Some nonprofits, they say, well, we're here to survive as a nonprofit. I say, no, you're not. You're here to provide great programming for people with disabilities. You're here to provide arts programming for adults. Whatever it is. Like, what's that and why are you doing that?
Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay, we're at time. We're over time. Any last comments you'd like to make about young entrepreneurs trying to get into this work? What advice you'd give them?
With entrepreneurs, I think it's really important that you understand that you're going to be in it for the long haul and have that mentality. You can't give up on 1 year or year 2. There are resources to help you. If you know your why, if you're looking at your numbers every day, there are a ton of free resources that want to help you, people and organizations that want to help you succeed. So that's the thing, is you're not in it alone. There's truly an ecosystem in place in Delaware to help you grow and thrive, and just stick with it. And then also, I want to thank all of the organizations that are helping entrepreneurs, including the Delaware Community Foundation. It's so important to have this outlet, this opportunity, and this space to be able to talk about the role of entrepreneurship in our economy. Because we know that when entrepreneurs and small businesses thrive in their communities, they bring their entire community along with them.
Great. Thank you. How to Not Kill Your Community is produced by 1440 Film Company and the Delaware Community Foundation, celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. Since our founding in 1986, the DCF has granted more than $530 million to 4,000 organizations by maximizing the giving of thousands of Delawareans. Learn how you can make more possible at www.delcf.org.